Embark on a gripping journey in Broken Hero, finding light in the dark as we unravel Deku's tale of resilience and love. Join me in exploring the depths of despair and the sparks of hope in this Deku X Harem saga. Get ready for an emotional roller coaster in this epic anime adventure. A new day at High Alliance, now 3A, one of the best generations so far. The once 1A class gained strength, power, and intelligence. In their second year, they achieved the unthinkable, defeating the League of Villains. It wasn't just them, but the impact of students accomplishing so much was significant. Today is a new day because a new school year is about to begin, and they are now seniors. They have all changed through tough training and challenging situations, developing great cleverness. Even the power dynamics shifted drastically. Currently, Bakugo Katsuki, known as Dynamite, is the strongest in the class. When he set aside his arrogant attitude, a great hero emerged. Next is Todoroki Shoto, the son of the current #1 hero. He mastered controlling his two sides and is considered a great hero. Girls even describe him as a Greek god, simply beautiful. Third is the unbreakable hero, Kirishima Eijiro, known as Red Riot, a formidable force with incredible willpower. Through blood, sweat, and tears, he earned the title of the third strongest. These three form the current top trio at UA. Surprisingly, all three achieved feats that brought them to this point. But to reach such heights, someone had to fall very low, Midoriya Izuku. 2 years ago, he was the strongest in his class, a noble and kind boy with a hero's ambition surpassed only by his intellect. Symbol of Peace chose him as the successor, granting him one for all, the most potent power ever. Now, he is unnoticed and ignored by his classmates, who forgot the once great hero Deku, 3 times better than Dynamite. The old Midoriya would be nervous about this, considering surpassing Bakugo a serious breach of laws. The current one doesn't care, his feelings faded long ago. From being kind and caring, he turned cold and serious, almost as frosty as his companion. He doesn't care about Bakugo or anyone in his class anymore. Classes would start again soon, but his enthusiasm had plummeted. He didn't even get out of bed that day, it wasn't worth it. Why bother getting up? To be with friends? No, he has none. They all left, one by one. His other classmates left too, and he was left alone. It didn't matter if he surpassed everyone to be noticed again, they acted like he didn't exist. After a few months, he stopped trying. The strength to get up every morning vanished, he wasn't even sure if he wanted to be a hero. But being in his last year, changing his course was impossible. He finally got up at noon, rubbing his head to shake off a hangover. Another change, he became an alcoholic for momentary relief. He let his problems go with beer, but it had adverse effects. Izuku, damn, he rubbed his eyes, trying to shield them from the light. Oh, God, what time is it? He picked up his alarm clock from the floor, 12:30 p.m., not as late as he thought. A good shower might help. He reluctantly went to his private bathroom. His room was vastly different from when they first lived there. The posters of the blonde hero were gone, along with all the other merchandise. Now, only light gray walls remained, a nightstand with scattered bottles, a messy open wardrobe, a desk with a laptop and scattered books, and a plain bed with black sheets. The crazy hero fan attitude died with everything else from his past. Izuku, that felt good, he emerged from the bathroom as nature intended. What should I wear now? Who cares? He grabbed the first thing he saw, a fitted blue short sleeve shirt, black jeans, and his iconic red sneakers, a gift from his father before leaving for America, a reminder that somewhere in the world, someone cared for him. He went down to the common room and saw the usual scene. Kaminari charging devices for everyone, Sero staring at his phone, Ashido chatting with Hagakure and Asui, Yaoyorozu with Jiro, and Todoroki enjoying tea. Uraka, Ida, Kirishima, and Bakugo were training outside. Nobody seemed to care about the freckled guy, which was odd because he had changed a lot over the years. Though he still had a cute face, it now had an adult complexion. Rigorous training shaped his body well, and his muscles were perfectly defined under that shirt. His height went from being short to someone considered tall, 1.79 meters to be precise. Despite his imposing and respectable appearance, nobody cared about him. He walked to the kitchen, ready for a well-deserved breakfast, then planned to train until his limbs exploded or his heart stopped from resisting his regimen, whichever came first. He quickly finished his bacon and egg, and orange juice before heading to the Gamma training field. He wasted no time, starting with warm-ups, 40 laps without using his quirk, each with 10-kilo weights tied to his feet, dodging lasers from strategically placed robots. For each hit, he added a lap, and there were many robots. Push-ups followed, one-handed, carrying a bunch of 15-kilo stones and rocks. After that, balance on one hand, the opposite of the one used for push-ups, carrying 3 stones while robots electrocuted specific parts of his body. Then came combat training, mainly kung fu for a long time. By 4:30 p.m., the freckled guy was in a deplorable state, wounds all over and drenched in sweat. Kicking a rock barefoot was destroying his foot. Exhaustion and hunger got the better of him, and he collapsed like an oak onto the cold ground, hopefully never to wake up. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on his side, and he was found a minute later. A red-haired girl entered the gamma field with the intention of training, only to be surprised by the green-haired guy in bad shape on the ground. She quickly used her quirk to take him to recovery. Whoever did this had gone too far. Kendo was having a happy day. She woke up early to make the most of it, a healthy breakfast, stopping Monoma from doing stupid things, preparing for when she becomes the class president again in her last year, and training to become even stronger than she already is. This was slightly altered when she found a classmate in a deplorable state in the training field. He seemed tortured for hours, but the reality was that he trained like this and ended up completely exhausted. She didn't waste time and took him to the infirmary. Recovery calmly started attending to him. "Kendo, shouldn't you be more concerned?" She watched as the old nurse calmly read a magazine while the guy was unconscious on the bed. "Recovery, I would if it were more serious." She replied calmly, irritating Kendo. Wasn't this serious enough? The guy was literally covered in blood, and his skin looked purple. "Kendo, it seems very serious to me." She crossed her arms, glaring at the nurse. "Recovery, the reason I'm not worried is simple, girl." The grandmother got up from her chair and went to check on the freckled guy who was asleep. It's not the first time this boy comes in like this, and in reality, she analyzed him from head to toe, he's surprisingly less injured than usual. This last comment worried the orange-haired girl. Was this less injured? "Recovery, could you call a racer? He's his teacher, and I need to notify him." "Kendo, sure." The class president ran to find the teacher who was sleeping under a tree with his sleeping bag. A few words were enough, and Class A's signature teacher was in the infirmary. "Aizawa, how serious is it?" He looked concerned for his student. "Recovery, not as much as the other times, and that's already worrying." Kendo looked at the nurse strangely. How was hurting himself less a matter of concern? "Kendo, excuse me, recovery, but shouldn't it be good that he's not so injured? Also, why does he hurt himself like that?" She looked at the freckled guy who seemed to be having nightmares judging by his expressions. "Recovery, on the contrary, given how Midoriya is, not coming in fatally wounded means he loses more and more muscle mass and fluids. He's pushing himself twice, maybe 3 times as hard in his training." She approached the heart monitor, looking at it seriously. "It's clear this time, Aizawa, he's determined to die." Both student and teacher were in shock. "He wanted to die? Aizawa, I guess it was only a matter of time," he sighed tiredly. Many months ago, the troublesome kid had become the silent kid. He didn't speak even when ordered by the teachers. He always seemed lost in his thoughts, not uttering a single word. "I'll inform Nezu." He left, and Kendo finally snapped out of shock, following him. "Kendo, Aizawa-sensei, wait." The green-eyed girl stopped the eraser hero as they left. "What's going on? How is it possible that Midoriya wants to die? Aizawa, do you care?" The teacher looked angry at the student. He could barely stand the hypocrisy of his class, let alone let students from other classes play with his student. He wouldn't allow the problem child to suffer more. "Kendo, of course I do." She replied angrily. "He's my classmate." "Yes, he may be from another class, but he's still my classmate." Besides, she confronted her teacher, who looked annoyed. "What kind of hero would I be if I simply let him die, the one who has shown that nothing matters as long as he saves someone?" The conviction in Kendo's green eyes only made Aizawa happy. "Aizawa, fine, follow me." Without further ado, the teacher walked ahead, and the orange-haired girl followed him, a little confused. It's something quite personal to Midoriya, but if you don't know, it's vital to understand him, and he'll never tell you. His sad tone was too visible. "To start, what do you know about Midoriya?" "Kendo, a good guy, heroic like very few, who doesn't mind dying if it's to save others, friendly, kind, and shy. Besides, he's very strong and is considered the strongest in Class A." The hero looked at the girl neutrally. It was clear she knew very little about him. "Aizawa, that was before. Currently, Bakugo is considered the most powerful, followed by Todoroki and Kirishima." The Class B president stopped abruptly and looked surprised at her teacher. "Kendo, and him? As I understand, His quirk and strategic mind place him as the strongest. She saw her teacher suddenly saddened. Aizawa, Midoriya is considered one of the weakest. The shock didn't leave her face, it was impossible for her. Kendo, they forgot about him? Surprise was evident on her face. She wondered if that was possible. Aizawa, yes, everyone distanced themselves from him and began treating him like a weirdo. He lowered his head, containing his anger. In a couple of months, Midoriya changed, and now he's what you see, a simple guy with no purpose or friends, focusing only on training until he dies. That's all. He continued his walk, leaving Kendo in the hallway, analyzing everything. Kendo, they were capable of forgetting him? A memory of Midoriya in joint training, saving his classmates, they forgot about their comrade who only helped them? She clenched her fists until almost bleeding, she didn't like what was happening. Recovery, stay still, kid. The shout from the infirmary pulled her out of her thoughts, and she went to see. Kendo, what do you think you're doing? The scene in front of her made her blood boil. The freckled guy was standing, bandaged in multiple places, with a lost look on the floor, trying to leave the infirmary. Stay still, you'll open the wounds if you continue. She stopped the freckled guy, who, for the first time, noticed who she was. Izuku, Kendo-san. Could you please let me go? The calm and lifeless attitude angered the girl. Kendo, no. With the same authoritative voice she used with her class, she replied to the freckled guy. You're injured and need to rest. She pushed him slightly, and the green-haired guy fell onto the bed. Izuku, I'm completely fine, and I want to go train. He was about to get up but was stopped again by Class B's big sister. Kendo, can't you see what state you're in? Now she shouted, she wouldn't allow a promising hero prospect to kill himself like this. You're very hurt, I won't let you go, Midoriya. She crossed her arms over her chest and glared at him. Izuku, AAA. Og. He groaned and rubbed his hands on his face. I'm in perfect condition, and I want to go train. He stood up, pushed Kendo slightly, and walked to the exit, where he was stopped by the wrist by Kendo. What? He was irritated by the orange-haired girl's actions. Couldn't she just ignore him like the others? Kendo, you have to rest, please. Midoriya, I don't like seeing you like this. Her grip trembled, and Midoriya was puzzled. I won't let a good guy kill himself by training. What kind of human being would I be if I allowed it? Her voice broke slowly, and the freckled guy already doubted. Izuku, don't trust anyone, a voice echoed in his head, and Midoriya constantly denied it. Enough. He hit his head hard, and the freckled guy passed out. Kendo looked between surprised and sad at the freckled boy on the stretcher. Just a few minutes ago, he had become unconscious from his own blow to the head. The green-eyed girl thought that would finally make him relax, but he still looked just as bad. His face was sad, and he tightly closed his eyes. It was clear that whatever he was dreaming was not good. Izuku, please, no. A tear escaped him, and he reached out as if trying to grasp something. Don't go, don't forget me, come back. Van, a few more tears escaped, and this was enough for the Class B president to approach and try to comfort him. Kendo, calm down, Midoriya-san, she whispered directly into his ear while caressing his head. You're okay, you're safe, and I'm not going anywhere. Her soft and calm words seemed to resonate in the mind of the green-haired boy, who finally calmed down. Recovery, it's becoming more frequent. She wrote something in a notebook and observed their interaction. Kendo, what's becoming more frequent? She still had her hand in the freckled boy's hair. It was softer and fluffier than she thought. Recovery, the nightmares and the attempts to fall asleep. She looked seriously at both. Midoriya suffers from insomnia and depression. Many times, he has done this. That surprised Kendo. It's clear that Midoriya's mind is deteriorating, and I'm not sure how long it will take for it to completely break. Kendo, when do you think it might happen? She looked at the relaxed freckled boy beside her. Recovery, it could be months, weeks, or days. Maybe he's already at a point of no return. She looked sadly at what was once All Might's successor. Kendo, is there anything I can do? Hopeful and determined, she asked. Recovery, I don't know. The mind, unlike the body, needs to be treated differently, and it takes longer to heal, she thought for a while. Was there a solution? Let me think. Nezu, the solution is right in front of us. Recovery, the mouse director entered, perched on Aizawa's bandages, surprising the two girls. Recovery, what do you mean, director? Nezu, young Midoriya is going through severe depression due to his current classmates, combined with cases of past abuse at his previous school. This results in an emotionally unstable boy. He descended from his comfortable seat on Aizawa's shoulders and climbed onto Midoriya's bed. The answer to the solution is simple. I will transfer him to another class. This shocked everyone. Kendo, would that help? She asked, torn between excitement and fear. She wasn't sure how to take this. Nezu, yes, because in the current Class A, they only push him to the side. If he continues like this, we will only cause the young Midoriya to either feel better or worse sooner or later. This made Eraser tense. He felt guilty for this. By putting him in a different environment, it may make him feel better or worse, depending on who he lives with. Kendo, what do you think, recovery girl? Hopeful and convinced, she asked. Recovery, given the state of his body and how often he ends up hurting himself, if the director thinks this can help him, I see no reason to refuse. It might work, the orange-haired girl got excited. Nezu, Aizawa, do you agree with this? All three looked as the Class A teacher lost himself looking at a student, pondering if it was the right decision. Aizawa, fine. Surprisingly, he gave in, much to Nezu's surprise. If that makes him return to being Midoriya, do it, director. Nezu, good, I'll make the necessary arrangements. In 2 days or less, Midoriya Izuku will be transferred to Class B. With a smile on his face, he went straight to his office. The sooner he did it, the better. While deciding what to do with the freckled boy inside, there was a discussion about his recent actions. For the former One for All users, Midoriya's mental instability was clear, and they did everything possible to help him whenever they could. Nana, Izuku, the freckled boy looked at her sadly. He had lost the ability to smile long ago. It wasn't worth it. Calm down. I'm not going to scold you or anything, but it's not necessary to take things to such extremes in your training. I don't want anything serious to happen to you. She put a hand on his head, trying to make him feel better. He's lying. The only thing he cares about is not disappearing. If you die, she and everyone else will disappear too. Izuku's shadow projected outside, making him feel insecure. Nana, shut up. I genuinely care about him, not like others who only want him to destroy himself, she retorted to the shadow, which only moved in its place. Izuku, both of you, stop it, he let go coldly and coldly. This caused sadness in Nana. The bravest hero who would bring a smile to everyone's face had now faded. I don't care what both of you say. It's my damn body, and I'll use it however I want. If I want to train until my eyes burst, I'll do it. He moved away from them, entering total darkness. It was better than listening to the delusions of your mind due to your insecurities. Time passed, and Midoriya finally woke up, this time calmer and equally bandaged. He slowly opened his eyes, getting used to the dim light. Kendo, you're finally awake. A smiling Itsuka Kendo appeared at the door with a tray full of food. I thought you might be hungry, so enjoy. She left the tray on the freckled boy's legs, who looked strangely at her actions. Izuku, thanks. He took the spoon and started eating. He didn't speak, and Kendo's smile didn't fade, making it uncomfortable for the orange-haired girl. Izuku didn't care. Kendo, and Midoriya, the freckled boy ignored her, lost in nothingness. Midoriya, not a single movement. Midoriya, she touched his shoulder lightly, and the freckled boy reacted. Izuku, yes? He was disheartened and sad, and the orange-haired girl didn't know why. Kendo, are you okay? She looked worriedly at her classmate, and he just looked at her, holding back his tears. Izuku, yes, I am. He looked again at his food as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. Nezu, young Midoriya, the rat entered the infirmary with his eternal smile, looking at the two. Izuku, yes, director? He was afraid of what he would say. What if they finally kicked him out because they realized he was useless? What would his parents say? Would they even talk to him? Did he deserve to be spoken to? Nezu. I'm very happy to say that you have been transferred to Class B for future heroes. The freckled boy froze. Did he hear correctly? Izuku, huh? He didn't understand the reason for this decision. Nezu, due to certain internal matters, we have decided to transfer you to Class B. Your potential seems wasted in Class A. He looked joyfully at Kendo. Miss Kendo, could you please take him to his new dorm in Class B? Kendo, of course, director, she responded happily. When you're done, we'll go rest. She smiled at the freckled boy, who was still confused. Izuku, but what about my things? He turned to the director. Nezu, they are already in your new dorm. Don't worry about that, young Midoriya. He was about to leave when he spoke again. Consider this a fresh start with new friends. The director left, leaving the two there, one very happy and the other very confused. For the next 15 minutes, Izuku analyzed what had happened, and he didn't know how to feel. On the one hand, he was terrified. A new class meant new people, which meant he would be ignored again, and he didn't know if he could handle that. On the other hand, A deep part of him was excited and hopeful to have a friend. He didn't even realize when Kendo basically dragged him to the Class B dorms, talking wonders about her class without realizing that the freckled boy wasn't listening. Kendo, and here we are, they stopped at a building exactly like the Class A1, Midoriya Izuku, welcome to Class B, they both entered, revealing. Upon entering, almost the entire Class B was present, except for Monoma, who was gagged, tied up, and placed in the laundry room for now. They had a welcome sign and lots of food. Vlad King mentioned the integration of Midoriya into the class, who, due to personal reasons, was transferred to them. The atmosphere was warm, like a family. It had been a long time since it felt this way, genuinely pleasant. However, the voice in Midoriya's head kept telling him that it was all just for show and that they would forget about him soon, just like it happened before. Class B, welcome, Midoriya. The class shouted in unison with joy at having a new companion. Midoriya, thanks? He said dryly, unsure how to act in this situation, so he just retreated to his room with fear. Tetsu, what's wrong? Can't he see this is for him? The metallic hardened guy was angry, considering Midoriya's actions disrespectful. Yanagi, maybe he's tired. The gray-haired girl pointed out, and it seemed obvious to everyone. Kendo, I don't think that's it. The president spoke quite displeased with what had just happened. Monoma, finally. The blonde came out angry with his classmates for not letting him make fun of the idiot from Class A. Where is he? Where's the idiot from Class A? A loud slap echoed through the entire room. Kendo, that's enough, Monoma. Her icy gaze and firm, serious voice made the human photocopier tremble slightly. You don't know the reason for the change, and as far as you don't know anything about him. Stop behaving like an idiot for 2 seconds, she ordered, completely angry at Monoma's actions. Monoma, why are you defending him? He was upset. It wasn't supposed to be her defending the idiots from Class A. Kendo, because he needs help, and I'm willing to give it to him. She clenched her fists, trying to suppress the urge to hit the class. He doesn't know the reason for the change, and as far as he understands, he feels inferior to everyone. That's the only thing I'll say. The president went straight to her most recent roommate's room. Kamakiri, does anyone understand what's going on? Almost everyone shook their heads. Kosei, not at all. He scratched his head, very confused. Yui, it seems that Midoriya-san had a traumatic event that shattered his confidence and hope. Now he retreats into himself, waiting for the day when he won't wake up anymore because of the burden deep within him. The stoic girl tried to offer an opinion, and everyone stared at her. What? Juzo, nothing. It's just surprising that you deduced all of that just by seeing him for a while. He ate a chip that was meant for Midoriya. Yui, I guess I'm good at reading people. She raised her right arm in victory, although with her poker face, it was hard to tell if that was the case or something else. While everyone tried to figure out what troubled Midoriya, he was in his room, having arranged everything. Right now, he was drinking from a bottle of beer, the only thing that seemed to quiet the voice in his head. Kendo, Midoriya-san. Her voice was heard through the door, much to Midoriya's annoyance. I'm sorry your arrival was like this, but they're excited to have a new classmate. Midoriya, don't worry, Kendo-san, I understand. He took another sip, it was starting to take effect. It's not their fault they're so lively. Kendo, Midoriya-san, are you okay? The tone Midoriya used was so different from a few moments ago that it didn't go unnoticed. Midoriya, perfectly fine. He hiccup, the strange hiccup worried her. Kendo, I'm going in. I want to see if you're okay. The orange-haired girl entered the room, ignoring its decor. What are you doing? She shouted at the green-haired guy, and her scream echoed to the first floor. Everyone went upstairs to see. Kanoko, what's going on? The brunette, followed by the entire class, watched the scene of Kendo with a bottle of liquor in her hands, keeping it away from a somewhat drunk Midoriya who was reaching for the precious bottle. Midoriya, give it to me, please. The freckled guy was being held back by a giant hand and sounded desperate. Kendo, no. Do you know what this does to your body? The orange-haired girl scolded him, and Midoriya seemed on the verge of tears. Midoriya, yes, it relaxes me completely and stops that damn voice. He sounded desperate, trying to break free from his president's grip. Give it to me, he demanded. Kendo, Midoriya, this is wrong. It harms your body. She slightly tightened her grip to prevent him from breaking free. Midoriya, please, he began to whimper, to everyone's surprise. It's the only thing I have. Please. Tears began to flow from his eyes, he felt dizzy and tired, knowing that the only thing that would make him sleep was the drink. Manoma, Kendo, give it back. The blonde ordered the president, to everyone's surprise. The serious look only made Kendo return the bottle, and Midoriya drank it with desperation, then another and another. Soon, tiredness and alcohol got the better of him, and he ended up asleep on his bed. We better talk downstairs. Everyone followed the order, some trying to piece together the puzzle they had and others looking out for their new classmates' mental health. Kendo, can you explain why you advocated for giving him back the liquor? She seemed upset, and that scared almost everyone. Manoma wasn't one of them. Manoma, I could see it in his eyes. He sounded distressed. He's not the main character in his life, not even the secondary, he's just a replaceable extra. Juzo, how are you so sure? The Fang guy looked strangely at his friend. Manoma, after basically being considered a second rate because of my quirk, it's easy for me to identify how people feel about themselves. He clenched his fists, he didn't like seeing someone so desperate. No games, what happened to him? He confronted the green-eyed girl, who put on a serious face. Kendo, Class A forgot him and treated him like a freak after the league was defeated. The shock was evident in Class B. Kurohiko, but wasn't he the one who defeated the most dangerous of them all? Kendo, they didn't care. Apparently, they got carried away by that fame and glory. I don't know all the details, but... She rubbed her arm uncomfortably. Midoriya is mentally unstable, and... A lump in her throat prevented her from continuing. Setsuna, and what? She didn't like this kind of suspense. Kendo, he's trying to commit suicide, she blurted it out, and the class was shocked. Ibara, what? She was the first to snap out of the shock and say something. Kendo, what you hear is true. Midoriya wants to die. Recovery girl made that clear to me today. She lowered her gaze, very sad. Today, I even had to save him from himself. Yui, huh? She looked confused at her friend. Kendo, he was going to train when I found him in a pool of his own blood. Apparently, the method he chose is to train to death. She raised her gaze, determined. No matter what happens, I will help, and you will help, right? The class looked at each other, were they willing to help Midoriya? The silence was incredible in Class B's living room. They wondered if they would be able to help their new member, Midoriya Izuku. The answer came unexpectedly from someone. Manoma, I'll help. The conviction in the blonde's eyes was both incredible and surprising. It served as motivation for the rest. Juzo, the guy has already broken his back helping without asking for anything in return. It's time for him to get his deserved reward. More and more affirmative responses were heard, much to Kendo's joy. She felt proud of her class, it was amazing what they were willing to do for this guy. Kendo, all right, I've thought about how we'll act. Everyone was attentive to their president. The first thing we need to do is earn enough trust from Midoriya-san so that he allows us to help. In these cases, it's better if the person actually wants help. Tetsu, and how are we going to do that? He raised his hand enthusiastically. Helping your comrades is manly. Kendo, give him his space. If he feels too under scrutiny, he'll be scared. If it seems like we're leaving him alone, he'll retreat into himself again. Shota, sounds complicated. The small silver-haired guy scratched his head, a bit confused. Kendo, try to make this place and this class your home and family. Don't overwhelm him, but show enough interest so that he won't distance himself. Eventually, he'll let us into his life. She sounded confident, encouraging her classmates. Yui, if that's what you think, then we'll do it. The black-haired girl stood up, she already had a plan to help their new classmate. For now, we need to sleep. Classes will start soon, and we have a lot to do. Everyone followed the black-haired girl straight to their rooms to rest properly. They all had an idea of how to integrate the freckled guy into the class, they just needed him to be willing to join them. The next morning, Midoriya got up from his bed enticed by a fascinating smell that reached his nose. It was incredibly exquisite, and he almost forgot that he now lived with Class B. He followed his nose to his table, where there was a stack of pancakes with whipped cream and strawberries, along with orange juice, simple but delicious, and a note. I hope you slept well. I know we didn't start off on the right foot, but we'll be here for you, Midoriya. Enjoy the pancake smile. Kanoko. A sweet gesture from his new classmate that he didn't hesitate to accept, despite the attempts of the inner voice telling him not to trust. Hunger prevailed. It was a delightful 10 minutes of breakfast enjoyment. When he finished, he was full and felt quite good, but he stank, so he went to take a well-deserved shower. He still had bandages and was quite injured, so he had to be careful. He took a well-deserved shower that would alleviate the pain he felt all over his body. He came out a few minutes later, As usual, naked. The months when his former classmates ignored him had made him develop unique habits, like coming out of the bathroom naked and changing with all the calm in the world. This led him to forget that he was now in another class. Ibara, Midoriya-san, I was wondering if. She burst into the freckled guy's room, as she normally would with her classmates, and what she found made her feel embarrassed. Sorry. She quickly closed the door and ran back to her room. She didn't intend to see him like that. Midoriya, huh? The green-haired guy looked at the interaction, not understanding anything. He was just in his room. Weird, oh well. He put on his clothes and left his room. There wasn't much for him to do there, and as much as he wanted to train to the death, Kendo would probably stop him, so it wasn't an option. Tetsu, Midoriya. The metallic guy quickly approached his new companion, feeling very excited to help. Good morning. Midoriya, good morning? He looked curiously at his companion's smile. It was weird to be spoken to like this all of a sudden, and with fear, he quickly retreated down the hall straight to the living room. Maybe there was something to do there. Tetsu didn't get discouraged. It was clear that Midoriya would feel strange if they suddenly talked to him like that. He would have to be patient with everything related to his new companion, so he just had to be there for him. In the living room, Midoriya finally entered, observing how part of Class B was at peace and harmony. Some were talking animatedly, others were watching TV. It was clear he didn't have anything to do here, but he didn't want to go back to his room. He delved into his own thoughts about what to do, ignoring the decisive glances of his classmates. Awase, Midoriya. The black-haired guy spoke, drawing the freckled guy's attention. If you want, come, and we'll all watch movies. Yui has some classics. Yui, they're classic and very good. The expressionless black-haired girl was eating popcorn with a weird plushie by her side. Midoriya, I guess. He approached the couch slowly. His insecurity was evident, and it didn't help that the voice in his head whispered that it was a trap. He managed to sit apart from the others, hoping the movie would start, and everyone would ignore him. Surprisingly, that didn't happen. On the contrary, those present sat next to him, causing fear that they might do something to him. This didn't go unnoticed by Yui, who sat to the left of Midoriya and handed him the plushie, a battered bear missing an eye. Yui, this will help you calm down. We don't want you to think weird things or that will hurt you. We just want to spend a pleasant time with you. She smiled, causing a warm feeling in Midoriya that he hadn't felt in a long time. Midoriya, thank you. He grabbed the plushie tightly, and to his surprise, it seemed to work. The movie was very old, a time travel trilogy that Midoriya liked. For a while, he felt the warmth he had lost months ago when his supposed friends left him aside. Back then, that warmth he felt with them changed into a horrible cold that hurt in his chest. Sen, do you want something to eat, Midoriya? The brown-haired guy stood up with an empty bowl, ready to bring more sweets. Midoriya, a soda, please, he continued hugging the security bear. He didn't feel ready to let it go, and apparently, that silenced the voice in his head. Sen, coming right up. He went to the kitchen to bring everything his classmates had asked for. Yui, don't feel pressured to be here, Midoriya. You're free to go anywhere or stay here. The black-haired girl clearly saw how tense and nervous Midoriya felt about receiving more attention than he was used to. Midoriya, I understand. He thought for a moment, weighing the warmth he felt now against the icy feeling of being alone. It was clear he preferred this 1,000 times. I'm very comfortable here, so sorry for staying. Manga, don't apologize. You're always welcome here. We're classmates, and we support each other. That didn't seem to relax Midoriya, who continued squeezing the bear in his death grip. Rin, relax. It's a perfect day to watch movies. Look. The black-haired guy pointed to the window where rain could be seen. It's the perfect day to watch movies with friends and classmates, and that includes you. Everyone smiled at him cheerfully, and Midoriya finally seemed to relax. It was comforting that they considered him, at the very least, their classmate. He was beginning to believe that he did have a place in Class B. After what felt like hours, the movies ended, and Freckles didn't let go of the teddy bear. He glanced at his new classmates who smiled at him, a stark contrast to his time in Class A where they barely acknowledged him. At some point, he fell asleep with the bear in his arms, dreamless. There were no nightmares, no shadowy debates, just a moment of silence and peace that he cherished before waking up to the delicious smell of food. His new classmates were serving the meal, and Yui was about to wake him. Izuku, huh? He looked a bit confused, a bit of drool on his mouth. Yui, it's time to eat, Midoriya-san, said the stoic girl as Freckles stood up, extending the bear, keep it. It's a welcome gift. Izuku, thanks. With the bear in one hand and food in the other, he began his time in Class B. After that, the class's elder sister kidnapped him to change his bandages. The original plan was for Ibara to do it, given her first aid knowledge, but for some reason, she blushed and preferred not to. So, Ibara and Setsuna took care of it. Izuku, this isn't necessary, President. He responded neutrally, not embarrassed by their presence. Kendo, it's not about mistrusting you, Midoriya, but it's safer this way. She bandaged him carefully, ignoring Setsuna's antics, finished? Setsuna, oops, my bad. She had been touching Freckles with a cream for wounds, I got carried away. Kendo, never mind. She finished bandaging him, paying no attention to Setsuna. Midoriya, do you feel better? Izuku, I guess, he replied vaguely, still unsure about what was happening. Kendo, good. She smiled, and Freckles yawned, want to do something, Midoriya-san, besides training? Setsuna, how about playing video games? She said enthusiastically, and Freckles nodded slowly, let's go. Setsuna led her new companion to her room, and the freckled one, feeling uncomfortable, went along with the excited girl. Setsuna, sorry for the mess, Midoriya. The place was quite clean and organized, with a console under a large TV. Izuku, it's very tidy. He commented as the green-haired girl took his hand, and they sat on the floor. Setsuna, go ahead, choose any game. She smiled, and Freckles thought for a moment before picking one, Horizon. Both started playing with stars in their eyes. Time flew by, and they only stopped when the clock struck midnight. Freckles went straight to his room. Kendo was strict about sleep hours, and unsurprisingly, she met him halfway. However, instead of scolding him, she accompanied him to his room, advising him to rest for what awaited him in a few days. The next day, Freckles woke up with a strong headache. His supply of beer had run out, and with the president's keen eyes, going for more was impossible. So, he opted for the second thing that came to mind and banged his head until he passed out. Now, there was a significant hole in his wall, and he had an additional area to bandage. Ibara, Midoriya-san, she nervously spoke from the other side of the door, worried about finding him undressed again, can I come in? Izuku, oh, sure. Freckles didn't even feel like getting up, so he looked at the upside-down plant girl. Ibara, are you okay? She hurried to lift him, and he reluctantly let her. Izuku, completely fine, Shiozaki-san. Now standing, he sat on the bed to lie down, I don't want to do anything. Ibara, I understand. Temporarily ignoring Freckles, she examined his most recent injury, an easily treatable bruise. Wait a moment, I'll get the first aid kit. Freckles just stared at the ceiling as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. You should take better care of yourself, Midoriya-san. Izuku, yeah, whatever. He was tired of hearing the same from everyone around him, not to sound like a jerk, but could you leave, Shiozaki-san? I want to sleep more. Ibara, sure, Midoriya-san. Just try not to overexert yourself. The plant girl smiled before leaving. Freckles continued sleeping until 4 p.m. when he woke up hungry. Cautiously, he went downstairs to see what he could eat. To his surprise, Yanagi was waiting for him with a freshly prepared katsudon. Apparently, his classmates got worried when they didn't see him, and she came to check on him and feed him. Yanagi, I'm glad you're okay, Midoriya-san. The ghostly girl said to her companion, who was devouring the godly meal. Izuku, thanks for the food. He wiped the remnants off his face and turned to go to Ibara's room to help her. Yanagi, Ibara and Kanoko are outside if you're looking for them. Freckles just turned on his heels and headed for the door without saying more. Upon arrival, both girls were jumping with excitement because Freckles had agreed to help them with training, though he was unaware of it. Izuku, training? His excitement grew a bit. Training not only relaxed him but also silenced the voices in his head. Kanoko, yes, we know you're a genius at this, please. She gave him her best puppy eyes, and Freckles didn't understand why she did that. Izuku, obviously, I'll help. I like the idea of training, whether it's me doing it or training someone else. With this, both friends fist bumped and got ready. I guess you'll start with a fight. The day passed quickly with that and Monoma challenging him to a Uno game, which Freckles won by a hair. The warmth in his chest was pleasant despite his madness trying to plant unfounded doubts. Tomorrow, he would have to return to classes, and nerves invaded him. He didn't feel capable of being a hero again. The new day began with a new hope, and Kendo had a plan ready to help the freckled one. The first step was to boost his lost hero will by starting with his wake-up and nutrition. Recovery had informed her that Freckles tended not to eat for days when he felt more miserable than usual, so she would ensure he ate well, or at least more than usual. Kendo, Midoriya-san, she didn't bother knocking on the door, knowing her companion wouldn't open it. Surprise, he was only wearing pants with several bottles around him. How the heck did he get the liquor? Izuku? He looked at the blurry spot in front of him with a slight orange tint. Knowing who it was, he just made a sound of exasperation. Hi, President. Kendo, it's time to wake up, Midoriya-san. You'll be late for your first day. The freckled one made another sound of exasperation. Come on, we're running late. Izuku, just tell the teacher I'm sick or something. I don't want to go, it's not like I want to. He lay down on the floor to go back to sleep, under Kendo's sad gaze. He was really not okay. Kendo, don't say that. It's worth it. It's another step for you to climb in your journey to becoming the great hero you'll be. She said, hoping Freckles would get up. Izuku, in that case, I'd rather not be a hero. Now, go away. He continued sleeping under Kendo's disapproving gaze. Kendo, if you go, I won't stop you when you go to train. There was a silence before Freckles got up and went to the shower. I expected that. I'll wait for you downstairs, Midoriya-san. The orange-haired girl left the room, leaving Freckles thinking about his new president's persistence. He could only compare her to Ida Tenya, two completely different people. While Ida lets everyone do as they please, Kendo does her best to guide them when they're wrong, including Monoma, who, despite his eccentricities, stays in line when she's around. One is a leader, and the other is the king's fool in their class. After the shower and a change into his uniform, he went downstairs and found Kendo in the kitchen, along with a breakfast he rarely saw lately: fruits, pancakes, coffee, almost everything was on the table. Kendo, go ahead, let's eat. She smiled at Freckles, who just wanted to go back to sleep. He slowly retreated towards the stairs when the president sat him next to her. You need to eat well, Midoriya. Otherwise, you won't perform well enough. Izuku, I'm not hungry. He spoke just when his stomach betrayed him, clamoring for food. Ahem. Under the president's amused gaze and a barely noticeable blush, he reluctantly started eating. The president tried to engage in conversation with Freckles, which proved a bit difficult given how closed off he was and the vague responses he gave. After that, Freckles cleaned his mouth and then headed to the academy accompanied by Kendo and Pony, both trying to make him feel more accepted and better. Upon arriving in Class B, the atmosphere was different from Class A. While the other class was somewhat separated into small groups, this class stayed together and chatted about any crazy thing they found amusing or interesting until Mr. Vlad King arrived with his usual serious demeanor, stopping at Midoriya sitting near Kosei and Tetsu. Vlad King, first of all, welcome to Class B, Midoriya. I hope you strive like all your classmates to constantly surpass yourself and grow not only as a hero but also as a person. Freckles nodded half disinterested. Second, get ready because this year will be tougher than the last. Show your evolution through the tests we'll give you. Don't relax for anything, and above all, expect anything. With that said, we'll start easy so that Midoriya can adapt to our working style. The students responded with strength and seriousness that Freckles had never seen in his class. Of course, they had great respect for their teacher and even considered him a second father, but Class B regarded their teacher with a bit more respect from their point of view. On the other side, in Class A, everything was normal. Many made noise, murmurs were heard here and there, and some cast indiscreet glances at others. The principal teacher entered with a tired and instantly seated everyone, waiting for a reprimand that never came. Aizawa was too absent and sad for anything. He still blamed himself for Midoriya's condition. If only he had been firmer with his teachings, none of his students would have let the power get to their heads, and Midoriya would still be in his class. Uraka, sensei, are you okay? The brunette asked with concern. In these 2 years, he had hardly changed, perhaps except for his hair, which was shorter. Aizawa, perfectly fine. Nothing to worry about. He analyzed his class with a gaze, feeling a certain pride for how far they had come, the power they had demonstrated, and their courage in the face of danger. On the other hand, he felt a certain annoyance looking at them as if there wasn't an empty seat behind Bakugo. Put on your gym uniform and go to the courtyard. Just like the first day of classes 2 years ago, but with much more experience, they went where their teacher called them and found him overly pensive. Aizawa, well, to know your progress in terms of quirk use and general strength, you will do the same tests as 2 years ago. Give it your all, heard? He shouted with a slight annoyance that they couldn't identify. Bakugo, up front, the blonde approached calmly and looked at his teacher. You know what to do. He gave him a ball and left. Katsuki, let's see how much I've advanced. With a spin, he threw the ball propelled with a highly concentrated explosion in his palm, causing it to go very far. How much was it, sensei? Everyone looked at the teacher who was looking at his phone. Aizawa, 3,680 meters. The blonde clicked his tongue. He was sure he had achieved more. The others just celebrated his score. Kirishima, as expected from Baku bro, the greatest, he said with joy for his brother from another mother. Mina, just as powerful as always. Katsu, she spoke with a tone of admiration. Lately, Katsuki looked more handsome to her. Aizawa, this is the reference you must surpass, even if it means going beyond your limits. With energy, Class A did the tests again that their teacher set with a slight change. As the tests passed, it became evident that something was different, but they couldn't quite figure out what it might be. No matter how much they thought about it, they couldn't pinpoint exactly what was happening. And with each test that Bakugo topped, it became more apparent that something was missing. Uraka, hey, don't you feel like something's missing? She asked the electric blonde next to her, who was breathing heavily. He still couldn't control his electricity entirely. Kaminari, yeah, but everything's the same. Maybe it's the toughness of Aizawa-sensei's test. He responded tiredly. Ida, surely it's because of our progress that we feel the change, Ochako. He assured the brunette, who pondered. Uraka, I guess, it wasn't that, and she knew it. Meanwhile, as all this happened, Izuku was at the Gamma field. Vlad King also wanted to see his new performance, so he brought them to a deadly obstacle course. He was confident that his students could pass it. Of course, for now, Midoriya wouldn't enter the action, not because he didn't trust his abilities, but because Vlad King wanted to see separately how his power worked. Kendo, is everyone ready, sensei? The orange-haired girl said as soon as Kanoko arrived last. The continuous use of her quirk exhausted her almost at the end, delaying her a bit. Vlad King, well. Midoriya, your turn. The freckled one just looked at the starting line, waiting for the order, strive and surpass your limits. With this, the race began. Izuku positioned himself to start the race, letting the power flow through every cell in his body. The feeling of power had always been pleasant since the first time he used Ofa. He let that feeling linger for a while and started running as fast as he could. As he exited, his classmates were surprised at the speed the green-haired boy had. The control of his quirk had changed significantly, much to the surprise of Vlad King and Class B. It was clear that Midoriya had better control over his quirk, not just speed, but also reflexes and strength, all improved beyond what Aizawa's records could justify. He surpassed Yuzo by a wide margin, who was the first to finish, not just by milliseconds but by minutes. It was a circuit designed specifically to challenge the entire class, including their most recent addition. Midoriya was on another level, that much was evident. Izuku, how did I do? He asked casually, as if he hadn't just completed a challenging circuit in less than 2 minutes. Vlad King, you're exceptional, Midoriya. With this demonstration, I can create an optimal routine and precise exercises to help you. The teacher ruffled his hair, much to Midoriya's irritation. Go join your classmates. Izuku, fine. He responded, annoyed. He didn't like people playing with his hair. Kanoko, you're amazing, Midoriya, exclaimed the surprised brown-haired girl. Jirota, it'll be nice training with you, Midoriya, said the freckled boy. Midoriya simply ignored them, unsure how to act in the face of so much attention. Vlad King, be prepared for anything. You can go to your classes. The students nodded and headed to change. Afterward, classes continued as usual. There was no real difference in studies and topics covered. Class B was slightly more advanced in their studies, thanks to Yui and Kendo, who organized classes well and helped those who struggled, including Midoriya, keeping him as up-to-date as possible. After much review and broccoli brain emitting smoke, they finally had time to eat. Of course, to avoid Class A, they had a plan. Pony and Izuku would be the last to leave. The blonde girl would take him to the rooftop while Kamakiri and Tetsu bought food according to Kendo's specifications. Pony, are you ready, Midoriya? Izuku nodded without understanding what was happening, only knowing that the president told him to go out with Pony after everyone else. Izuku, yes. He finished packing his things when the door was opened by Kosei, sent as reinforcement in case things got out of control. The three hurriedly left, always watching Izuku's back. He looked at them with confusion, not making any wrong assumptions, knowing they did this for something other than preventing him from meeting his former classmates. They quickly reached the rooftop, and with big smiles and a plate of katsudon, Class B was ready to spend this free time. They let Midoriya be and didn't force him into anything, so he cautiously sat a bit away from everyone. Finally, after classes, they had free time that Midoriya used to train as only he could. This time, however, he had someone watching him, not the president, but Tetsu and Shota, in case he went too far. "Shota, isn't this too extreme?" he asked, worried, seeing how Midoriya held a stack of robots pointing at him, electrifying his hands. Tetsu, it might be, but Kendo made it clear, only stop him when it really looks like he can't go on. He spoke seriously, acknowledging that Midoriya was pushing his limits, but he didn't seem too tired. "If you see any sign of fatigue, stop him." Minutes passed, and Midoriya lowered the metal pile, panting from the effort. He began to see double, it was clear he was at his limit. Without caring, he took a step ready to continue when Tetsu and Shota stopped him. "Tetsu, that's enough, Midoriya. You need to rest." Without waiting for Midoriya to respond, he knocked him out and took him to the dorms. "He sure pushes himself." "Shota," he almost continued. "It's a bit scary when you think about it." Entering, Kendo wasted no time taking him to his room with Ibara to heal and change his bandages. The orange-haired girl was quite sure that Midoriya had opened some wounds. Izuku woke up a few hours later with the intention of continuing to train, but it proved impossible as Jirota and Juzo were at the door to stop him. The powerful Izuku Midoriya was too exhausted to fight those two, so he resigned himself to being in his room, getting bored in his place. On the other hand, Vlad King was analyzing the recordings of Midoriya's race. According to Aizawa, he needed the most attention since he didn't fully control his quirk, but what Vlad King was seeing was incomparable. "Aizawa, how was it?" he asked his colleague, who only looked for a second before returning to the monitor. "Vlad King, the kid is amazing. His fluid movements and concentration on the environment are exceptional, not to mention the quirk control. Without a doubt, Midoriya will be an incredible hero." "Aizawa, can I see?" he asked curiously. Midoriya never spoke to him for training, and the raven-haired man never said anything or forced him. He didn't know how to handle the green-haired boy. "Vlad King, I guess. You were his teacher, maybe you can help with his training." He stepped aside and let the raven-haired man watch Midoriya's race, surprising the Class A teacher. "Is something wrong?" "Aizawa, I had never seen Midoriya do things so fast and precise, not to mention the almost perfect quirk control." "Vlad King, almost perfect? Wipe those eyes and look again." "Almost falls short, Aizawa. Midoriya controls his quirk perfectly." He refuted with some force in his voice. "Aizawa, believe me, there are slight movements in his legs when kicking and in his fists that show he's not using his full power. Train him better than I did, Vlad." With that said, the dark-haired man left the teacher's lounge, leaving Vlad King quite confused. It was clear that he needed to know Midoriya's limits and his quirk, and he already had a way to find out. He just hoped the director would give him the green light to do so. The evening came on the second day with Class B. Today, compared to yesterday, the classes and training were calmer. Vlad King still needed to refine each individual's training and organize them so that when the test came, everyone would give their best in adverse situations. "Yui, there's something I wanted to ask, Midoriya-san." The expressionless girl spoke as they entered the common room in the dorms. "Izuku, yes? Yui, how does your quirk work?" The room fell silent. The entire class was eager to know how exactly his power, which they hadn't seen well, worked. "Izuku, my quirk is an energy mutation. It allows me to store seemingly infinite energy, and because of that, my body can't handle its 100%, causing too much damage." He explained and went to the kitchen. The hunger was too much. "Yanagi, what about those black whips in our first encounter?" she asked, following the freckled boy to the kitchen. "Izuku, at that moment, I had accumulated a lot of energy, so, unable to withstand its release, my body mutated, allowing the development of the whips as a way to divert and use the energy without harming myself," he explained while preparing katsudon. "It's not the only mutation, I can assure you." "Manoma, so, how much did you use in yesterday's race?" he asked intrigued, while the green-haired boy drank water without enthusiasm. "Izuku, only 2%. It didn't require more energy." This surprised everyone. That circuit was created to challenge them, and the fact that he only needed a minimal part to pass without difficulty left them with even bigger doubts. "Kanoko, how much do you control of your quirk?" "Izuku, 95%. If I reach 100%, the energy would be so intense that my current body couldn't handle it, causing my organs, bones, and brain to implode. There was a strange silence until a light bulb lit up in the freckled boy's mind. I'm going to do something. Kendo, don't even try, Midoriya. The orange-haired girl grabbed his arm before he could leave the kitchen. You won't use 100% to implode. We're going to help you control it, and you'll be a great hero who saves many, clear? She looked serious at him, and he only nodded with a pout. Izuku, I'm hungry. He went to the kitchen to finish making the perfect katsudon. The class president was sharp in her thinking, and he was pretty sure the idea of escaping wouldn't be possible. Ibara, I'll help you, Midoriya-san. The plant-haired girl went to help her newest classmate with joy.
On the other side, in Class A, a tense atmosphere prevailed.
Today had been more strenuous and intense than the previous one, and that feeling of emptiness persisted. Aizawa was being more tyrannical with the training, leaving them worse than exhausted. Not even the mighty Bakugo Katsuki could endure the grueling training their teacher imposed. It seemed like he wanted to make them suffer without apparent reason. Ida, I can't feel my legs, the class president exclaimed, completely exhausted, with smoke coming out of his engines. Uraka, I'm about to vomit, she said, dizzy. Their teacher really went overboard with the training. Shoto, Aizawa-sensei is really pushing it with the training. The bicolor boy was on the floor, breathing heavily. Tsuyu, is he angry about something? Of all of them, the frog was the only one not so affected by such infernal training. Momo, it's possible, considering what happened with Shinso-san. The class fell silent for a moment, remembering the intense battle where the purple-haired and the green-haired boys fought fiercely against a powerful villain, even though they only remembered the one with the brainwashing quirk. Kirishima, is he still not recovered? Momo, from what sensei said, his recovery is slow. She said bitterly, knowing the state of the green-haired boy at the end of that battle. Katsuki, the idiot did well. Thanks to that, I delivered the final blow to the damn multi-quirk. He spoke proudly of giving the final blow. Mina, that was so cool, Katsu. No one can beat you. She spoke very affectionately, approaching the blonde. Katsuki, whatever. I'm going to sleep. He went upstairs without caring, passing by an empty room that the explosive boy swore belonged to someone. What the hell? Mina, is something wrong, Katsu? She asked, looking at the empty room. Was someone here? The following days were exhausting for both classes. Both Aizawa and Vlad proved to be relentless in teaching them about various situations they might face. Of course, there were occasional surprise tests on enemy attacks in zero-tension situations. In the effort to help the freckled boy, there were minimal advances, but they were progressing towards Izuku's trust. Yui was the one he talked to the most. Given her always expressionless face, it was easy for him to establish minimal communication. He also got along well with Ibara, as she was the one who usually woke him up and healed him. Within a week, he had spoken more than 2 words to her at least. Kamakiri and Juzo were 2 others often seen with him. Both were the ones always around him, making the green-haired boy start to think he actually had friends. Kendo, I'm still surprised at how quickly you've recovered, Midoriya-san. Both Green and Orange were in the infirmary, checking on the freckled boy who had entered the class 2 weeks ago. Only small scars remain. Izuku, I suppose. The orange-haired girl removed the last bandage. The freckled boy was finally healed. Thank you for your care, President. The green-haired boy received a flick from the orange-haired girl, who sighed tiredly. Kendo, I already told you not to call me that. I prefer you to refer to me as Kendo or Itsuka. She spoke seriously to the freckled boy, who nodded. Izuku, understood, President. He received another flick, and the green-haired boy looked at the older sister. Kendo, you're doing that to annoy me. She allowed the green-haired boy to put on his uniform and took his hand. Let's go, we're running late. Izuku, all right. The green-haired boy let himself be dragged by his companion towards the gamma field. His teacher had the perfect idea to measure Midoriya's abilities. Huh? Hatsune, after a while, they had arrived where they were, and there was the crazy inventor with the teacher. Vlad King, Midoriya, step forward. The green-haired boy let go of Kendo's hand and went to his teacher. You've been challenging to train due to your quirk. That's why I had the inventor create something for your training. Izuku, what is it? May, for you, Midoriya, it's this. With a button, a strange robot fell to the ground, a spherical head with multiple cameras and a cylindrical body with various compartments. I don't understand why Sensei puts so much effort into something like this. It's clear that it will end up killing him. I wish it were for those 3, she murmured, quite frustrated by creating something for UA's weakest. Vlad King, shut up, inventor. He spoke seriously to the girl, who quickly retreated. I will discuss this with Power Loader. Midoriya, you can start. Izuku, I guess. The freckled boy let the power flow and went to hit the machine, which detected the movement and easily stopped him. Very well, he tried again, this time faster, passing again. But what? Vlad King, I told you, this will be your training. Defeat the robot that sees everything. Izuku spent the whole afternoon with his new robotic companion, which he couldn't easily hit or destroy. The metallic material and mechanism it possessed made each impact less powerful by absorbing much of the force and diverting it to a special cylinder to recycle that energy as its second battery. Kendo, Midoriya-san, it's time for dinner. The orange-haired girl came out to the yard, watching as the green-haired boy continued attacking the robot without stopping. Izuku, He looked seriously at the robot before using black whips to hit it, unable to move the robot. Kendo, that's enough, Midoriya-san. The class president grabbed his forearm before he could make another strike. For today, it's okay. Izuku, but, he looked at his companion, who smiled kindly. Kendo, you know it doesn't matter. She strongly took his forearm and dragged him inside, not liking to be called president. You just need a different angle to destroy the robot, I know you can do it, Midoriya-san. Izuku, I suppose. He got lost in his thoughts again. His president might be right, and he needs a different perspective on the robot. Kendo, how about asking Vlad-sensei? That might help. She smiled just as Jirota served his self-proclaimed best curry in the world. Izuku, he took a bite of the food, contemplating numerous ideas to develop. Rin, can Midoriya eat this? She whispered to Sen, who was beside her, holding back the urge to vomit. Izuku, He looked at the class, very few could withstand the curry made by the beast. Kosei, you're amazing, Midoriya, enduring this level of intoxication. He spoke completely amazed, knowing well that his classmates did not have iron stomachs like him. Izuku, oh. Compared to what Bakugo or Todoroki does, this is godly food. He replied and continued eating, remembering the times when the two strongest left too much food, and he was the only one who tried it, thinking he could help his friends improve their cooking. Setsuna, are they that bad? That was unexpected, the most powerful perfectionists were bad in the kitchen. Kamakiri, and you, Midoriya, how good are you in the kitchen? The green-skinned guy asked seriously. Izuku, the freckled boy looked seriously at the green-skinned one. You know, I challenge you to cook something better than this curry. Jirota, there's nothing better than this curry. He spoke before tasting more of his curry. Izuku, the freckled boy just stood up and went to the kitchen, catching the class's interest, who gathered to watch as he moved around, throwing ingredients and catching things with his whips. Kanoko, what do you think he'll do? She whispered to avoid distracting him. Kurohiko, whatever he's doing smells really good. Everyone paid attention to what came out, and the delicious smell made their mouths water. Kendo, it's better to sit and wait, it seems he'll take a while. They obeyed and sat impatiently, only hearing the sound of the pan and the delicious smell spreading in the dining hall. Izuku, and done, the freckled boy said before his whips carried plates to the table, and then he came out with more plates. Tonkatsu. The class stared at the dish for a moment before trying it, swearing that their taste buds went to culinary heaven, only to return when the freckled boy sat down to eat curry. Tetsu, it's delicious, he declared with his mouth full. Yui, Midoriya-san has a very good hand in the kitchen. She spoke with a small smile of pure satisfaction. Jirota, not bad. He spoke while trying to steal something from the others' plates. Monoma, don't even try, he shouted at the giant trying to steal the meat. Izuku, if you think so, some pride had been born in Izuku that night, at least he knew what to do when he was inevitably kicked out of UA for being weak. The next day, the more energetic students went to their classes. A tactic that Kosei came up with was for the freckled boy to teach his classmates to cook, so they would spend more time together, and they would realize they weren't bad and wouldn't harm him. Of course, he would start with one person, and then the others would join in sporadically after some time. Vlad King, do you want me to help Midoriya? In front of the teacher was Kendo, who knew very well that her classmate wouldn't say anything to their teacher. Kendo, he will never come to ask for help, sensei, but he needs it, I'm sure of that. She spoke with conviction. Vlad King, fine. The teacher approached Midoriya, who was kicking the robot once again. You need more speed and precision if you want the kick to connect well. Izuku, sensei, the freckled boy looked scared at the teacher, who had a calm expression. Thank you. Vlad King, I see you haven't had much luck tearing apart this metal junk. The green-haired boy lowered his gaze, thinking he was being scolded. You know, this thing is made to be a wall to overcome, something for you to surpass, and you are doing just that. Izuku, it doesn't matter. No matter the angle or force I use, this thing just withstands it. He said, frustrated with his lack of progress. I give up. He was about to leave, but a hit to the machine stopped him. His teacher had tried the same thing and failed in the process. Vlad King, I also failed. Without saying anything, he tried again and again, even using his quirk to make his hands strong bloody hammers that couldn't hit the machine. I failed again. Midoriya, do you know why it's happening? Izuku, you are using powerful punches instead of doing. The light bulb turned on, and he walked to the machine under the watchful eyes of his classmates and his teacher. All I had to do was concentrate the blow in one spot, making it impossible for it to absorb the impact. With the Fa Jin charged in 2 fingers, he hit the robot, shattering its infinite resistance and destroying its core. Kurohiko, incredible, like his classmates, the shadow guy was quite surprised by what his classmate achieved in such a short time. Vlad King, listen well, kid. No matter if your feet hurt or your muscles burn, never give up, and if you still do, be persistent in continuing to learn from what happened. The freckled boy was gone, looking at the destroyed robot. Listen to me, everyone. In a month, the sports festival will take place. You have until that day to prove not to others but to yourselves what you are made of. Overcome every obstacle, even if it seems impossible, to have a tomorrow with glory and honor. He put his hand on the boy's hair, who looked at him. Midoriya, this is your chance to show yourself and show in general what you are made of. What you have been through has only forged you and will continue to do so. He took him by the shoulders, continuing his monologue. Show the world how unbreakable you are. Izuku looked at him. That will he seemed to transmit was like when All Might told him he could be a hero. On that occasion, he cried like never before, but now there was only conviction in his gaze. He would do what the teacher said and show not only that he is here but also how much willpower he has.